Well, Gerald, thank you very much, and thank you for that. Welcome, and it's fantastic to be here. Here today with 36 days until the most important general election for a generation. And I want to explain why we have just 36 days left to save Britain's economic recovery. Today, in the week when we learnt our economy is bigger than we thought, confidence is higher, and living standards have risen further, I want to explain why our plan is working for you. And today, on the very day when Britain's business taxes are cut again, I want to explain why we must stay the course. This is a fantastic British business. Britvic employs over 1,800 people in the UK. And the £25 million of investment you're making here in West Yorkshire will create another 50 jobs. And for every job that you create directly, you generate over 6 new jobs in the wider economy. And Britvic's success and the jobs you've created is a testament to the hard work of your brilliant workforce here and the skill of your management. It's also a vote of confidence in Britain as a place to grow, to invest, and to create jobs. And you are one of the thousands of business success stories that lie behind the headlines of the last 5 years. Almost 2 million more people in work. The fastest growing major advanced economy in the world in 2014. And yesterday we learned our economy grew even faster than we thought. And today, as he's just explained, your chairman, Gerald Corbett, is one of 103 business leaders who have felt so strongly about the choice now facing Britain that they have made an unprecedented intervention in our economy debate. As they put it in their letter, this Conservative-led government has been good for business and has pursued policies which have supported investment and job creation. And they go on to say, we believe a change in course will threaten jobs and deter investment. This would send a negative message about Britain and put the recovery at risk. The leaders of over 100 companies employing over 500,000 people have spoken up. Their message is positive. We have an economic plan that is working and creating jobs for people. Their warning is stark. A change of course will threaten people's jobs and put the recovery at risk. No more ifs or buts. Britain now knows. Vote for Ed Miliband and Ed Balls on the 7th of May, and jobs and investment and economic security will be at risk. We have just 36 days left to save Britain's economic recovery. And a British general election has never seen a business letter like this. 103 business leaders, as I said, employing over 500,000 people. The chairman and chief executives of businesses that represent a roll call of British economic success, innovation, and job creation. We have the leaders of some of our biggest companies like BP, Dixon's Carphone, the Prudential. We have the people who run well-known brands like Primark, Iceland, and Mothercare. We have representative businesses across the country like Marston's in Wolverhampton, where I've just been this morning, DFS in Doncaster, and of course, Britvic here in West Yorkshire, where I am today. We have people who have signed letters for the Labour Party in previous elections. We have the leaders of small firms, large firms, strong firms from our commercial past, new firms for our future success. And when you look at Britain today, you can see we're providing businesses and families with the bedrock of economic stability that comes when you're dealing with your debts and you've got a clear plan, economic stability without which nothing can be achieved or hoped for. But these 103 business people today also mention 3 further vital ingredients that we need in order to secure Britain's recovery. Competitive business taxes, continued backing for the companies that create jobs, and ongoing support for investment to build a truly national recovery here in Yorkshire and across the UK. Let me briefly take each in turn, explain our approach, and set out the risks that we face from a change of course. Now first, Britain needs competitive business taxes. Today, not 1, but two historic business tax changes have come into force. From this morning, Britain's headline rate of corporation tax has fallen to 20%. That's the lowest rate of any major economy in the world. And it's not some accident or happy circumstance that has given us the lowest business tax rate of any major economy. It's the result of a deliberate and doggedly pursued policy. In 2010, corporation tax stood at 28%. And I've cut this tax in budget after budget since 2010, sending a signal around the world that Britain is open for business. Why? When it would have been so easy to leave businesses paying higher taxes? Why? When there are no votes or popularity contests you'll win cutting corporation tax? The answer is simple. We want businesses to come here, invest here, grow here, and create work here. This is about much, much more than dry headline rates of taxation. The tax cut today lowers the burden on almost 100,000 companies, and that in turn helps those businesses offer more jobs to families in Britain with all the security that that brings. Our corporation tax cuts over the Parliament are now saving businesses over £9 billion this year, enough to support over 250,000 jobs. As today's letter from those business people put it, the flagship policy that David Cameron and I have pursued of progressively lowering corporation tax to 20% has been, in their words, very important in showing that the UK is open for business. It has been a key part of their economic plan. They're right, it is a key part of our plan. And it's part of our plan that we expect that tax rate to be paid. Because our approach has always been this: low taxes, but low taxes that are paid. So the other major tax change that takes effect today will help deliver that approach. It's our new diverted profits tax. And as Chancellor, I'd inherited a situation where the minority of companies, particularly some very large multinationals, have been going to extraordinary lengths to avoid paying tax here. That's not fair to other British businesses who compete with them, and it's not fair to families who pay their taxes. So that is what our long-term economic plan offers: low taxes, but low taxes that are paid, and today we are delivering both. And in just 36 days' time, that could be at risk, because Ed Miliband is the only other person at this election who can be Prime Minister, and he is committed to raising corporation tax. Indeed, they confirmed it yesterday. And it would be the first time the main rate of this tax has been increased since 1973. And it will be the first time for generations that any major party has gone into an election wanting to raise this tax on business. And there is a reason why parties, including the Labour Party in the past, have not proposed raising corporation tax. It's because it represents a huge risk to the British economy and to British jobs. Corporation tax is the main tax on business. Increase it, and you increase the tax on investment, on growth, and on jobs. It is as simple as that. And let me be clear, the policy decisions you take on business in the Treasury have a direct impact on people's lives. And if you start to hike business taxes and confidence is undermined, then projects are shelved and investment doesn't come here to this country. You create an anti-business environment that leads to lost jobs and higher unemployment and families without the security of work. These are not abstract economic risks. They are an assault on everyday working people, and they are concrete reasons why we have 36 days to save Britain's economic recovery. Now, cutting corporation tax is the first part of our jobs plan. The second part is cutting the taxes that are directly applied to jobs and making sure work always pays. In other words, backing businesses and the people who work for businesses. As today's letter puts it, Britain grew faster than any other major economy last year, and businesses like ours, they say, have created over 1.85 million new jobs. We believe a change in course will threaten jobs. Now, yesterday, David Cameron and I set out a new goal to back business to create 2 million more jobs over the next Parliament. 2 million jobs. 1,000 jobs a day. And that sounds like a lot. But you look at the record of the last 5 years, and I believe it is perfectly possible. We've helped businesses create 1,000 jobs a day since we came to office. We already have the highest employment rate in our history, more people in work than ever before. 2 million more jobs would deliver on our commitment to full employment, the highest employment rate of any major economy. It means a job for anyone who wants one. And this isn't just an ambition. We've got a detailed plan to support businesses to deliver it. We're cutting the jobs tax. That's employers' national insurance. We're cutting it last year, this year, and next year. Last April, we introduced a new employment allowance, cutting up to £2,000 off the jobs tax bill of every employer in the country. That's a huge boost to small firms taking on new people. This April, we are abolishing the jobs tax altogether for any business employing people under the age of 21. Now, that's a massive help to any company giving a young person that chance of work and the security it brings. Next year, we'll abolish the jobs tax for employing apprentices under the age of 25. That's backing companies that give people the skills in life to earn and to have a great career. You've got a great apprenticeship program here. We're committing to 3 million more apprenticeships like it in the next Parliament. And we're also reforming welfare so that work always pays. That's a key part of our program. We want a welfare system that supports the vulnerable. But I'm conscious that the working people here pay for that welfare system. And when it's abused, when it pays more to stay at home than to go out to work, then your trust and your effort is abused. And we're changing that. Full employment is Britain's goal, and we're on track to deliver it. But all of this is at risk from our opponents' plans for higher taxes and uncontrolled welfare. They won't make the decisions to save money, so they put up taxes. That's higher taxes worth £3,000 for every working family in the country. That's higher jobs taxes, the tax that the last government put up in 2002 and 2010 and would put up again. That's welfare out of control again, so it doesn't pay to work. And taken together, higher taxes and uncontrolled welfare mean higher unemployment. And that's another reason why we have 36 days to save Britain's economic recovery. And here's the third. The 103 business leaders talk about the threat to jobs, but they also talk about the threat to investment. And that investment is what we need for a truly national recovery. Now, we're here today in Yorkshire, and there's an amazing fact about this amazing county. You've created more jobs in Yorkshire than in the whole of France. In fact, of all the 2 million jobs that businesses have created, 60% have been outside London and the southeast. Now, under the last government, the gap between the north and the south got bigger. The Midlands fell behind too. Now the Midlands are creating a job every 10 minutes, and the north is growing faster than the south. And this is what happens when you stop putting all of your bets, as the last lot did, on the City of London 200 miles to the south, and instead we build a truly national recovery. This is what happens when you invest, as we are, in new roads here, in new high-speed rail, in new science, new innovation, new manufacturing across the whole UK. That's because government doesn't create 2 million more jobs, businesses do. And that's what drives our vision of a northern powerhouse, connecting the cities of the north so the whole is greater than the sum of its parts and we build a more balanced recovery. All of what we have achieved is now at risk if we change course, because it is not government creating these jobs. It's businesses investing here across Britain that are creating these jobs. Businesses that can these days move anywhere, set up factories and offices elsewhere, create jobs in any country. But they come to Britain today because we've got the economic stability that comes with dealing with your debts. We offer the low taxes, and we're investing in the plans for a truly national recovery. Here, the warning today from the business people of Britain's companies, some of whom are not British, but all of whom have that global perspective, could not be clearer. if we abandon our economic plan, if we raise taxes and undermine business, then they say this would send, in their words, a negative message about Britain and put the recovery at risk. A negative message about Britain. The recovery put at risk. The business leaders have told the British people the simple truth. Our economy is recovering. We have a plan that is working. It's creating jobs. It's raising living standards. It's helping fund our vital public services like our NHS. But all of this is at risk if we change course. So Britain, the choice is yours. Businesses have spoken. There is so much more we can do, but the jobs are on the line. We have 36 days to save our economic recovery. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, thank you. Right, questions. Who would like to ask a question? Take the lady over there in the blue coat, I think it is. Yeah.
Hi, Allegra Stratton from BBC.
I thought it was you, Allegra.
It's okay, it's a long way back here. Many businesses say they're frustrated by the rebadging of the idea of zero-hours contracts that Ed Miliband's talked about today, that actually they're just a healthy type of employment. Do you agree? And do you think they're here to stay in the level they're at in the economy right now?
Well, look, I think the answer to job insecurity is to create more jobs. To have an economy where businesses feel they can expand, they can take people on, they can invest. And I think you've had a really clear message today from businesses, large and small, across this country, or the people who lead them, that if you want to create more jobs, we've got to stick with our economic plan, and that if you want to threaten jobs and deter investment and risk the recovery, then you depart from our plan. And I think that is the answer to the question of job insecurity. Create more jobs. And in our economy at the moment, 80% of the jobs that are being created are full-time. And the people who suffer when the economy fails are the poorest people, the people on the most insecure hours. Those are the people who are made unemployed. And that is what happens. You have an economic policy that returns us to economic chaos. We've got a plan that's working and we're going to see it through. Let's take another question. The gentleman here. We'll just wait for the, is there a microphone, I think? No, here, this gentleman here.
George, I'm very pleased that you have been doing a fantastic job. But people are asking, when I go to help Stuart Andrews and other MPs, people are asking about deficit. Are you sure that you're going to cut the deficit within the next 5 years?
Thank you. No, look, we have a balanced plan to eliminate the deficit, to make sure that our national debt, which is now falling as a share of our national income this month and in the year ahead, continues to fall, but to do it in a way that also supports our National Health Service, so we invest more in our health service, invests here in the north of England, cuts taxes for working people, and makes sure we have an economy that continues to grow. And we've got the plans to do it. We've got the track record that shows we can turn this country around, we can deliver economic stability, get our public finances under control, and we're absolutely now determined to see that plan through and to finish the job. Let's have another question. Lady there at the back, there.
Hi, I'm from LBC Radio. I was just wondering, could you live on a 0 hours contract?
Well, I'd give the same answer that David Cameron would give, and I suspect many people would give, which is, of course, it would be very difficult. And there are some 0 hours contracts that people want. Indeed, I heard on the BBC at lunchtime a student talking about how they wanted that. But for people who want to work longer hours, people who want job security, the answer is to create more jobs. And here are the business leaders of some of the big British business companies, some of the small companies, companies here in Yorkshire, companies around the whole UK, saying very clearly that if you depart from our economic plan, jobs will be threatened, investment will be deterred, and the recovery will be put at risk. And that will put people out of work. And that is the greatest insecurity of all. So I think people have seen today a very, very clear message about Britain's economic future and the very stark choice we face at this election. Here's another question. Carol Walker there.
Can I ask you about some comments from your opponent, Ed Balls? Today he's given a commitment this afternoon that he's not going to reduce the higher tax rate, the 40p rate, so he's not now going to drag any more people into that higher rate. But he's also said that he'd be cautious about increasing it because of those risks to the economy that you've been talking about. Do you welcome his commitment not to drag more people into that higher rate? And how can you afford your goal of raising that higher rate, perhaps as high as 50,000?
Well, I mean, frankly, Ed Balls has been all over the place in the last 24 hours on this vital issue. He has made it pretty clear, I think, that he wants to drag more people into that 40 pence rate of tax. And he very explicitly said within the last 24 hours that that's one of the things he's thinking of doing. I think that is wrong now, and the Conservative Party has a very clear plan to raise the threshold to £50,000 before you pay that 40 pence rate, because we don't think it's right going forward to tax the middle earners in the way that he is planning. Indeed, our proposal is to reduce taxes for working people, because not only do we want to raise that threshold at which people pay the high rate to £50,000, we want to raise the tax-free personal allowance that everyone receives to £12,500. That's a real boost for many tens of millions of working people. Of course, we've already shown we could do it in this Parliament, and in the next few days the tax-free personal allowance is going to go up to £10,600. We want it to go further. In the budget, I already set out plans to take it to 11,000, but we want to, as Conservatives, take it to £12,500. Who's got another question? This gentleman here. The gentleman here with the purple tie, I think it is. Yes.
Mr. Osborne, I'm Stephen Lee from the Mid-Yorkshire Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
As you've said, businesses need to make long-term investment plans. Yeah. We welcome the extension of the capital investment allowance from 25,000 to £500,000. In the budget, you've deferred a decision on the future of that allowance until the autumn. Is it too soon for you to give any expectation here this afternoon about what you might do with that? Because we'd like to see it extended further.
Yeah. I mean, I can give a very clear indication, which is I think the prospect of taking it back to 25,000 is a non-starter. It's been a really successful new investment allowance, up to £500,000. So I would want to keep it at a pretty high level, because what it does is it helps the small and medium-sized businesses. Of course, you know, here in Britvic, we've got a big company, big employer, but there are loads of small and medium-sized businesses that will be part of the supply chain here. Indeed, it's one of the real strengths of the Yorkshire economy. And those high annual investment allowances have been a real boost to help those small and medium-sized businesses expand. Indeed, I think it's taken something like 97, 98% of all businesses out of having to pay any tax in that respect. So it's something we absolutely want to maintain at a high rate. Do you have my assurance on that? Who's got a question? There's a gentleman at the back there with the...
Hi, James Vincent from BBC Look North. Is it a bit disingenuous to say that Yorkshire's created more jobs than France, when the figures that you're relying on show that France has lost so many jobs that anywhere that's created jobs has actually created more than France?
Well, Yorkshire is, you know, if you look at the job creation record here in Yorkshire, it's fantastic. You know, you've created the businesses here, people who are self-employed. We've had over 100,000 more jobs created here. If you take this constituency of Pudsey, right, the claimant count, the number of people claiming the unemployment benefit, has fallen by over 50% in the last 5 years. I mean, that is not just a statistic. That is families who have real economic security, who have the job that provides the income that they can provide for their family. Now, we want to make sure, of course, that more jobs are created here in Yorkshire. We set out our long-term economic plan to do that. We want to make sure people who want to work more hours, and the hours are available in the economy. We want living standards to rise. Those things are happening because we have that economic recovery. I think there's a real opportunity here in the north of England to create something really special, a northern powerhouse where we connect together the cities and the counties of the north, not just here in Yorkshire, but in the northwest and the northeast too, and make the whole greater than the sum of its parts. For the first time in a generation at least, the north is growing faster than the south, and I want to continue the progress we've made. I want to address that imbalance in our country, not because I want to pull London down. It's fantastic we've got this great capital city in our country, one of the great capital cities of the world, but because it's not enough to have just London. You need to have a balanced economy, and I think, as a country, we made a really bad mistake a decade ago, putting all of our bets on financial services in the City of London. And when that blew up, it was the whole country that suffered, and we didn't have enough manufacturing, and we didn't have enough growth in the North and the Midlands and the like. That is changing now. Manufacturing is growing, the North is growing, jobs are being created here at a faster rate than in the South, the economy is growing here, and that gap is closing. And if we have the determination, working across party divide, with local civic leaders of all parties, following through the plan that I have set out, I believe we can achieve that historic goal of rebalancing our national economy, something that has bedeviled this country for very, very many years. Let's take another question. There's a gentleman here, younger gentleman. Yeah.
Josh Harvey, Leeds University. Just wondering what the main policies that the Conservatives are proposing that will be the most benefit to young people.
Well, I think, look, ultimately the best thing we can offer a young person is a country that is going forward, growing, expanding, creating jobs, so when you leave university or college or school, there's work for you to do. And that you live in a country that doesn't think its best days are behind it. You know, I think of those countries, some countries in Europe, who aren't really, it seems to me, prepared to take the big decisions needed to provide prosperity for the future. I don't want that to be us. You know, I want you and the people you're at university with and the people you're at school with and the like to think this is a country that's going to be a source of economic opportunity all my life. Now, there are lots of ingredients to that. You've got to have competitive taxes, low taxes. You don't want to be putting your taxes up in this very competitive world where businesses can go everywhere. You want to make sure your universities are great and well funded. You don't want to be doing things there to student finance, which is going to make it more difficult for universities to let students come and study and be great places of learning. You want to reform your schools so more kids are in outstanding schools and getting the best education in the world. You want to invest in your roads, in your high-speed railways and the like to make sure you're making the long-term decisions about this country's future, not because these projects are completed tomorrow, but because you know in 10, 20 years you took the decisions to secure the economy and our country's prosperity for your generation. So that's the best thing. Is you know, when I speak to audiences, I don't think you should separate out, you know, here's a policy for young people, here's a policy for older people. You know, we're part of one country, and the prosperity and the prospects and the opportunities are there for everyone if we build them. Let me take one final question. There's that gentleman there at the back who, to be fair to him, has had his hand up since the beginning.
Thank you very much. Sebastian Payne from The Spectator. Mr. Osborne, I just wanted to ask you, the increase in jobs has not brought on the revenue that you expected, but that's partly because the Treasury is supporting job creation with tax cuts and tax credits. Is it fair to say that this government has made a trade-off to slow deficit reduction to increase job creation?
No, I think it's been part of a balanced plan. And, you know, our economic policy, yes, has been about making sure that our public finances are in order, that our national debt starts to fall as a share of our national income. That was the target I set out in that first budget in 2010. But it's also been about making sure that work pays, and the reforms to welfare and the increases in the tax-free personal allowance and the cuts to corporation tax and the cuts to the jobs tax, national insurance, are all part of making work pay. And the decision we took to increase spending on the National Health Service every year was also part of that balanced package. So I think what people have seen us pursue is a clear, balanced plan. People can judge the results for themselves because they can think what this country was like 5 years ago with the insecurity and the high unemployment and the like. See where we are today. You know and I know the job isn't done, but we've got a plan that's working. The business people who lead some of Britain's biggest and most successful companies, the high street brands, some small manufacturing businesses too, have spoken today and given a very, very clear, positive message about the success of the plan we're pursuing, also a warning about the dangers of changing course and the threat to jobs and the risk to the recovery. So we must listen to them. We must see this through for the sake of the working people of this country. Thank you very much.